Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Space Engineers Plus Me, episode 76. I'm Enigmaeus, and today we're taking a break from sculpting the hull of the Atlas Mk.II. We're putting in some of the machines. We're doing some machine layout, some conveyor layout, and while it's still mostly in the open, we're going to take a look at it so that you guys can see what's going on, how things are going to work, and how they're going to fit together. We're just going to dive right in. First of all, we've got conveyor tubes now connecting the back section of the ship to the front section. I tried putting them into the shroud up here, but it's not large enough to really receive them without having to rework big sections of it. And I was happy with the way it looks now. I didn't want to have to start mucking about with it. So I had already considered the idea of having them down here and then building armor blocks around them. I like the idea. I think it'll look kind of snazzy when it's done. We'll have to wait and see. And it alleviates the problem of having to refit everything into the shroud. So these are ready to go now. They're connected. You can see there's some more conveyor tubes on the inside, taking the connections from the front to back and bringing them up top so that we can connect the auto gyro leveling system with conveyors, which means that the bore head will be able to transfer its inventory up through the auto gyros into the on-ship conveyor system, into storage, and then into processing, just like we were doing with the Atlas Mk.I, just a little bit more automatic and a little bit more constant. You won't have to worry about having the bore head do a complete cycle and then stop and drop everything off. Everything will constantly be going up through the conveyor system, which is also why we have some redundancies. There's two sets of conveyors, front, or I guess left side and right side, so that if something happens, something gets damaged on one side, the other side will still allow the stuff through. So that was a minor detail. Its purpose is very simple and straightforward. Its execution is simple and straightforward. Here we're starting to get a little less so. We're going to be passing the inventory again from the bore head up through the shaft that holds it in the auto gyro, through the auto gyro and into the ship storage. So we've begun the process of laying that out. We're going to have conveyors running around the inside of this circle here, and then we're going to have another layer of armor blocks running around the inside of the conveyors, and then we're going to build blocks on top and blocks on the bottom so that the conveyors are all completely enclosed, protected, and then we're going to have connections to the inner circle of the auto gyro system, which will then extend to the shaft holding the bore head, and then the bore head itself. So we'll have that constant connection of conveyors between the bore head and the ship storage that starts with making sure that we can get it from, wherever it leaves the auto gyro rings and getting it into the storage in the back of the ship. Now the rest has been not bad. Actually, very simple and straightforward for a lot of it. We've got 6 large cargo containers again. Once we get everything up and running, we start mining, we start having stuff to work with to test to make sure that the sorting is happening properly. We're going to be spreading things out a little bit so that if the inventory of one container happens to disappear, you don't lose everything. But for now, you can just imagine we've got 1 for ore, 1 for ingots, 1 for ice, 1 for components, and then 2 left over. So we've got some extra containers for redundancy or whatever we want. And right now they're set up so that you can decide exactly what goes into each one with conveyor sorters here, and also a one-way valve here to make sure that you don't have stuff moving around inside the conveyor system that gets dumped in here because there was a way to bypass it. So these guys here are just basically to make sure that stuff that comes in to the container has to go through this conveyor sorter, which will determine what goes into the container, and then everything that comes out that way and goes wherever it needs to go. The reactors, we've got 6 this time around, and we've got room for however many more we could possibly want. The reason why we've got more than we had in the Atlas, the original Atlas had 4, we've got 6, is because we're going to have more jump drives on this ship. That's kind of important to me, is we've learned that 4 jump drives was allowing us to make the trip from the Earth-like planet to the Mars-like planet much faster than if we were just going at 100 meters per second. But it would have been better if we had more jump drives, so we're adding a couple more reactors to help a little bit with the extra power that's going to require to get them charged. It's not going to charge as fast as the Atlas because we're going to have more additional jump drives than we have additional reactors, but it'll be fine. And like I say, we've left room. If we want to add more reactors, we'll be able to do that. Now, the reason why the conveyor system looks kind of odd and pointlessly redundant is actually because it's mostly a looks thing. The ship is an uneven number of blocks from side to side. So we have this one here is basically the middle of the ship. That's the center line, and then we've got the reactors on either side just to keep things balanced, or looking balanced as the case may be. We've got conveyor sorters here, and their job is to make sure that the only thing that ever gets into this system is uranium ingots. Once the ingots are in here, if we find after the fact that they weren't distributed equally and one has run out and another has extra, we can pull them extra through there just from the control panel in the front of the ship, because they're all interconnected now. Just simple stuff that I've learned, and more quality of life stuff, things that we could possibly live without, but why? We're supposed to be learning as we go. So now we get to this part here, which is our arc furnaces, which is using our automatic distribution system. We came up with this. If you haven't seen the automatic distribution system at work, there's going to be a link in the information box here to the video where we showcased that system. And we basically just set up a test bed so that you could see exactly how it works, moving things around to the different inventories. That may be a little bit easier to grasp exactly how the system is working than what we're going to show you here, but we're still going to try and kind of cover in some detail exactly what's going on. We've got a total of 44 arc furnaces. We had 40 in the Atlas. The reason why we've got 44 is because each of these columns that you see, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, is 4 arc furnaces, and again, the odd number of blocks from side to side meant we had to have 1 extra, which is the extra 4 for 44. Arc furnaces are purple, timer blocks are blue, and blocks that moves things around along with conveyor sorters are yellow. So a little bit of color coding to make it a tiny bit easier to figure out what's going on. These 3 conveyor sorters are responsible for portioning out whatever is going to be fed to the arc furnaces to a specific size. Now, the default size is 10,000 liters. It was suggested when we looked at the testbed setup of this whole system that you could put other material into the central conveyor sorter that would just sit there all the time. It would never get moved out, and it would limit how much could pass through into this system at any one time. So you could have even smaller amounts sent to each of the arc furnaces if you wanted to. We're not going to worry about that for right now. We're going to see how it goes with the 10,000 liter sort of size, and then we'll go from there. But basically, you have this conveyor sorter is always on, and this one here and this one here are controlled by timer blocks that alternate them. So this one will be on, and it'll be sending materials into this guy until this guy is full, while this one is off, so this guy can't send anything to it. Once this guy is full, or more specifically, once a couple of, 2 or 3 seconds have passed with the timer block, this one will be turned off, this one will be turned on. Now this guy can pass his inventory through to this guy and on into the network of arc furnaces without having to worry about more stuff being stuffed into this guy and then passed along as well, because this guy is off and not sending. So we're basically just isolating this guy here, using these as one-way valves, and that's how we control the size of the packages that we're sending to the arc furnaces. Now, in terms of how we control which arc furnaces get what, it's a very similar kind of concept, only instead of working with 3 conveyor sorters, we're just working with 1 conveyor sorter at a time. So you'll have, for example, this is the number 1 conveyor sorter feeding the number 1 arc furnace with the number 1 timer block. This guy will be on, and all of the other conveyor sorters in this system will be off, and there's a conveyor sorter for every arc furnace. So this will be the only one that's on. When the materials come through the packaging group, it'll go into this guy and feed it into the arc furnace. There you go, he gets his little bit, and then because of the instructions given by the timer block, before the next package is delivered, this guy here will have turned on this timer block here, and when this guy is triggered, it'll turn off this guy and turn on this guy, and then the next package will come through and go through here. This guy will have turned on this guy. After a couple seconds pass, he'll turn off this guy, turn on this guy. Next package will come through, go into here, and on and on and on. And then once it's gone all the way around here, it moves to the next column, and it does it again. It's one great big spiral all the way down the line, and then once it's done, gets down to the end, it'll come back here and do it again. That's the whole auto distribution system in a nutshell. It took a little while to develop the system. It takes a little while to put it into place, because one of the things that I've learned and this is the first build where I've been good about following through with what I've learned, is I'm labeling everything as I go, so that when I get to the control seat, I can sit down in the control seat and everything is properly labeled. I can do everything I need to do from the control seat in terms of setting everything up. If I don't label everything properly from the beginning, there's a lot of time spent going back and forth between machines and control seats trying to get everything set up the way that we want it to. So taking a little bit of extra time up front to set things up properly labeled, properly oriented. And then when we get to the control seat, we can do whatever we need to do, as opposed to the time wasted at the end going back and forth all the time, trying to figure out who's what and where. Now we're going to be setting up refineries. Same system for distributing the materials to the refineries so that we can kind of spread things out a little bit more easily and reliably than the game would normally allow us to do with the straightforward use of the blocks we're given. I haven't decided exactly how many refineries we're going to have. We had 10 on the Atlas. I think we're going to end up with more. Once the refineries are done, then we can put in the assemblers, and the assemblers don't need an auto distribution system. We can just have them all connected using the share resources, or the cooperative mode, I think is what it's called, so that you use one assembler to say, make me steel plates, and then all the other assemblers help it do that. So that's eliminating the need to set up the auto distribution system. And then finally, I think the last thing that we'll have to do in here is put in the hydrogen tanks wherever we can fit them and make sure that they're all connected to the grid. So that's basically the long and the short of what we've been working on for the last couple of days. I'm going to get this set up. I'm going to get it all the timer blocks set up so that it's supposedly doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then we'll move on to the refineries. By the next episode, we should have most of the machines in, if not all of them. And we'll be back onto finishing up a lot of the hull work that we can finish up, because we'll know that things aren't going to be in the way. And then we'll be focusing on the auto gyro system with the shaft that's going to be holding the bore head. The shaft is what's going to be modified by grinders and welders so that we can lower the bore head as far as we want. Then we'll come up with a new design for a new bore head specifically for this system. And then lastly, we will take the ship for a spin somewhere. I don't know if we'll go to the moon or if we'll go to Mars. I'm thinking moon actually right now, but we'll see how it goes. And we'll see if the ship works. So if you want to be notified when we add future videos in the series, as always, you can subscribe to my channel, or you can follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information box below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and questions. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.